Hey, welcome. So today we're looking at a piece of music software that goes more than just add a few new bells and whistles. It actually challenges the whole idea of how we make digital music. If you've ever felt like your tools are boxing you in, you're going to want to see this. You know how it is with most music software, right? Everything is on a timeline. It's this long, straight path that goes from the beginning of your song to the end. It's neat, it's tidy, and honestly, it can feel a lot like being stuck on a railroad track with no way to turn off. So every little spark of an idea, your melody, your drum pattern, that cool chord progression, it all has to be crammed onto this one single linear path. And yeah, that system works, for sure. But what happens to those ideas that want to branch out or loop back on themselves, or just evolve in weird, unexpected ways? A lot of the time, those ideas get watered down just to make them fit. Okay, but imagine this. What if, instead of that single track, you had a wide open map, a blank canvas where you could draw out musical journeys that could go literally anywhere, connect to anything, and create patterns that feel, well, more organic and alive? That's the big idea we're diving into. And the tool that gives you this map is called Midinous. It's what's known as a non-linear MIDI sequencer, and it totally reimagines how we tell our instruments what notes to play and when. So what on earth does that actually mean? Well, a normal sequencer goes from left to right, bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, and so on. A nonlinear sequencer, like Midinous, lets you create musical events that can trigger each other in any order you can dream up. You end up with these complex, evolving patterns that don't really have a traditional beginning or end. Now, this is super important to get straight. Midinous is not a replacement for your DAW. You know, your Ableton, your Logic, your FL Studio. Think of your DAW as the recording studio. It's what actually makes the sounds. Midinous is more like the creative brain that sends all the instructions to that studio. It's a powerful sidekick, not a competitor. And getting it to talk to your other software couldn't be easier. Seriously, you don't need any confusing virtual cables or extra apps. You just launched Midinous and boom, it shows up on your computer as a MIDI device, just like a keyboard would. You just hop into your DAW, pick Midinous as the input, and you're good to go. Okay, so if there's no timeline, how do you actually write music with this thing? Well, you have to stop thinking like a painter on a long scroll and start thinking more like an electrician designing a musical circuit. The whole process is actually pretty simple. First, you drop these things called points onto a grid. Each point is some kind of musical event, a note, a chord, whatever. Second, you connect those points with paths, which are just lines you draw that tell the music where to go next. And third, this is the fun part. You can have those paths branch off, loop back on themselves, or even split randomly. You can create music that almost writes itself. The grid itself is what gives you your rhythm. By default, the space between any two grid squares is exactly a quarter note. So the physical distance you create between your points translates directly into musical time. It's this really visual, intuitive way to build your rhythms. And this is where it gets really cool. If you want to break out of that rigid grid to create some complex rhythms, triplets, or just get some wonderfully weird human timing, you just turn off the snapping. Suddenly, you can place your points anywhere you want, giving you total control over time and space. All right, let's get into how this whole different way of thinking translates into some seriously powerful tools that you just won't find in a regular old sequencer. First off, the canvas is basically infinite, so you can build these massive, sprawling musical machines. There's scale snapping, which is amazing. It means you can experiment like crazy and never hit a wrong note. Relative signals let you do stuff like have a melody that automatically shifts up in pitch every time it repeats. And the whole thing is fully customizable, right down to the colors and even a left-handed mode. And this is where things get really powerful. Midinous can send out musical data on 16 different MIDI channels all at the same time. What that means is that one single design, one map, can be controlling 16 different instruments in your DAW at once. Just imagine your bass line, your synth lead, your drums, and your pads all interacting and influencing each other inside one visual space. And one of the best parts, it's super accessible. Doesn't matter if you're on a Windows PC, a Mac, or even Linux, Midinous is built to slide right into pretty much any setup out there. So with all of this unique power, it brings up the big question, who is this actually for? Let's figure out if this very different kind of tool is something you should have in your arsenal. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Let's hear from someone who actually uses it. This review from a user on Steam says it all. Midinous is one of those really special MIDI sequencers that completely rewrites the way I make music. That's a pretty bold statement, right? For some people, this isn't just another plugin. It's a whole new way of thinking about music.
So yeah, it's perfect for you if you're feeling stuck in a creative block, or if you're into making generative and experimental music. Or really, for anyone who's just sick of the timeline. But you gotta keep in mind, it doesn't make any sound by itself. You absolutely need a DAW. And while most virtual instruments work great, you might run into an occasional plugin that's a little quirky with how it receives MIDI.
Now, if any of this sounds even remotely interesting to you, the best part is that you can try it for yourself completely risk-free. Because it's available on Steam, their policy is awesome. You can buy it, download it, mess around with it, and as long as you've used it for less than 2 hours, you can get a full refund, no questions asked. And honestly, 2 hours is more than enough time to hook it up to your DAW and see if this whole new approach to music just clicks for you. And that brings us right back to where we started. We spend so much of our creative lives just following that straight line. But maybe the real breakthroughs, the ideas we haven't even thought of yet, are waiting for us somewhere off that beaten path. Maybe what you really need is a map.